Thank you very much for joining us today, everyone. I'm here with Margaret Stasiak. She's going to present using a sandbox course to manage your course materials. Thank you so much for doing this, Margaret, and I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Paul. And welcome, everybody. I'm really happy to see everybody joining our webinar. It's the next webinar in a series on teaching with Avenue sessions. And today's webinar is about using a sandbox course to manage your course material, to help you in planning, and then developing your own resources. Let me just get started with the land acknowledgement. I would like just to go through with the land acknowledgement first. New Language Solution is based in Ottawa, Ontario. We acknowledge that our head office is on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. Beyond Ottawa, we have staff working in locations across Canada. New Language Solutions is grateful to have the opportunity to work as a guest in communities and territories across the country, and we honor the stewardship of the many Indigenous peoples who have resided on these lands since time immemorial. We make our acknowledgement as a sign of respect for all Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, past and present. We accept the true impact of the past and the pain suffered by generations of Indigenous peoples. As an agency that works to support the integration of newcomers into Canadian society and cultures, we resolve to support activities that are inclusive of Indigenous peoples. We'll make our best efforts to address a history of injustice to First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. We encourage our frontline staff and clients to discover whose traditional territories they live on and pause to reflect on the hospitality shown to us as guests in these territories. Okay, so let's get started with our subject, with the topic of our presentation. In this presentation, I will discuss and demonstrate what a sandbox course is and its main features, how they work and how can serve you and your purposes, how you can get a sandbox course on Avenue, and how you can use a sandbox course to assist you in planning and then developing your instructional materials. Also, I will provide a few tips and suggestions on how to use a sandbox course in your teaching, mostly in face-to-face or in-person teaching. Okay. Let's start with the first question that I have for you, because it will help me understand how much you can actually do in your course and what editing rights you have. So if you could tell me what stage of Avenue training you have completed, it would be great. It would be very helpful. No, that's excellent. I think it looks like most of our audience today have completed more than 2 stages of the training, which is great. So that means that most of the information that I have included in that presentation will be relevant to everybody here. Okay, let's just look at the results. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to close the poll and move to the next slide. Sorry, just moving things around here. So let me just get started with a quick overview what the sandbox course is. So a sandbox course is basically an empty course shell that you can use, but students, learners have no access to it. So it has all the capabilities of the course in terms of hosting materials, resetting the materials, editing capabilities, and so on. However, it cannot be used by learners. And it also means, because it is not used by learners, it is not connected to ePortfolio, which means that all the things that you can do in that sandbox course are really for you, not for anybody else who would use that. So as I said in here, that sandbox course can be used just as your testing field or as a playground where you try things out, test them, play with them, see how they work. And nobody else can see that unless you share it with another user, which is a possibility for you. What you can do, you can enroll another user for that course, and that can be your co-teacher, that can be your volunteer, that can be your TESOL student who's doing a practicum in your class, and they will have the same access to that course as you do. And they will have access to the materials that you host there and you work on during the course of that, of using that sandbox course. Let's move on to the next slide. So very quickly, I just put a brief overview of the two types of courses that you have, that you deal with when you're on Avenue. So a sandbox course, and these are just a few points that I just compared. So the sandbox course is just an empty course shell. Students have no access to it, whereas your live course is an actual course where teaching happens and the learning happens. So all the content can be identical in both courses, but only a live course offers the teaching and learning experience. Now, a sandbox course remains active for as long as you want to save its content, which means it can be with you indefinitely. Whereas a live course has a limited lifespan. Right now, many courses on Avenue have been around for quite a while, and I think that policy is going to change. I know that the Avenue administrators are planning to shorten that life of the course to maybe up to 1 year, and it is actually going to improve the learning and teaching experience on Avenue, because it's going just to make everything run faster. But at the same time, it tells us that it is a good idea to have a sandbox course, because you can use it as a storage area for the content that you would like to keep for more than the life of one course. Now, a sandbox course can house the content. You can build the content in there. You can reset it. You can modify it. You can do everything with it. You can also change and try out different ways of setting up your course page without the fear that your learners will see that, or without the risk of slowing down how the learner can interact with the content in the course. Whereas when your students interact with the course activities, with the course content in a live course, anytime you go into the editing mode, it changes their experience. It may affect their activity completion. It may slow down the way the content is displayed for them, and so on. And the final point, new content that is in Sandbox course, for example, interactive activities, assessments, discussions, all the media content that you upload can be tested in a Sandbox course, and you can do anything with it. Whereas in a live course, the changes that you make can be seen by learners if they are using the course, if they are present in the course at the time of your changes. And finally, the learner activities are connected to the Avenue ePortfolio in a live course. And I think this is probably one of the major points that is really important for you to keep in mind, that a sandbox course does not have learners and is not connected to the Avenue ePortfolio, which is a minor disadvantage for us, because if we want to try how assessments work and what a hard copy of an artifact is going to look like, we may not be able to do that in a sandbox course. We will not be able to do it in a sandbox course. We'll have to do it. We'll have to test it in a live course. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So why do I think it's good to use let me just minimize that because it's really... So why do I think it's good to use a sandbox course, and why it makes sense for anybody who's teaching an Avenue? First of all, a sandbox course allows you to declutter your live course page. So I don't know, probably speaking from my own experience, I tend to collect things and keep them just in case. Or sometimes I like the resources that I used some time ago, but they're no longer relevant to the class that I'm teaching right now, but I still would like to help to have them somewhere. And the course, the live course, is the only space that comes to mind. Well, a sandbox course in that case will come very handy, because what you can do, you can move all these units or single activities or multimedia files, you can move them to your sandbox course without cluttering your live course page. And I believe that your live course page needs to be streamlined and clean and should not be cluttered with items that are not currently in use, or they're not absolutely necessary for the learner to see. Especially at lower CLB levels, learners get really affected by how much information they can see on a course page, and it makes it more difficult for them to understand what is happening and how they need to read that page. Then another benefit of having a sandbox course is the ability to try and test activities. So you can do it without slowing down your live course. You can try different things. You can test these activities for timing. You can see what the content is. You can go slowly, you can pause, you can do different things the way you want to test them before you actually use them in the course. You can also try different ways of teaching those specific activities and see how you can include them in your either online session, or if they need to be assigned as an independent learning, and so on, or can you use those in the in-person teaching, and so on. So there are many different options. Another important function of a sandbox course is the ability to work on the activities. So if you have the existing activities that you like, but there's still things that you feel could be changed or modified or just adapted to the learners that are in your class, you can actually use the sandbox course to make all these changes and then copy those activities once modified into your live course. You can also develop your own activities or materials that you could use in your live course. And again, use different functions. There are a few options that you can use to copy those into your live course. Now, and the last option that I listed here is the ability to share content that is in your sandbox course with another person, an instructor, volunteer, or a TESOL student, and the ability to collaborate with them so you can work on resources together and share them, or just use them at the same time. You can also create a sandbox course for another instructor who teaches the same CLB level, for example, in your organization. And this way you can share the materials. Those materials can be hosted in that shared sandbox course and then copied into each individual live course of each of the instructors who participate in that sandbox course. I'm just going to present very briefly how you can get your sandbox course, and because most of you have completed at least stage 2 of the Avenue training, I will just go over it very quickly. I just wanted to demonstrate it for the sake of instructors who are new. So there are really 4 simple steps here. You go to the Avenue course builder first, and you order your sandbox course as any other course. So right now at this moment, you need to order at least 2 units to get the course. So you will probably need to preview and select minimum 2 units appropriate for your sandbox course, complete the course request form, and then when you do that, when you fill out that course request form, indicate that it's a sandbox course. And I'm just going to show that very quickly. So this is the course builder. In the course builder, what I will do, I will just, okay, I'll just pin 1 unit here. I have a few units already pinned, so I'm just going to pin another one. And once I have done that, I am going to my shopping card. Well, these are the units that I have pinned so far. I'm going to request a course now. So I go to this course request form. And this is a new request. I'll say create a new course, please. And then I will have to indicate here, make this a sandbox course, so it's clear. You can also, if you want to add units to your sandbox course, because you already have one, of course, you're going to choose a different option here. I would also say append to Margaret's sandbox course, and it would do that. So I'm not going to submit that course request form, but you get an idea what the process is about. Okay, so let me just move on to the next slide. I wanted to say, by the way, because if you have any questions, because we haven't mentioned it at the beginning, but if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to ask those questions. It might be easier actually for me to answer them while I'm talking about it, when the question is relevant to the topic that I'm on right now. And if you have other questions, you can just keep them for the end of the presentation. It's up to you, really, if how you want to ask your questions. Okay, so let me just move on to the next item. I just wanted to briefly go over how you can try and test different activities. So that's the main purpose of the sandbox course that that you would open for yourself. So I think the most important thing is to test the topic view and optimize your course page organization. So when you look at your course page, live course page, I think it's a good idea just to take a step back and look at it from the perspective of your learner. Depending on learners' digital skills, level of digital skills, and also CLB skills, it might be difficult for them to read that page, especially if you use different blocks and if you use your navigation drawer a lot. They may not be able to understand that the things can be closed also in that view. So it is a good idea for you just to test and see how you can do it. I'm just going to show you just my sandbox, and just wanted to demonstrate something. So there are different ways, and I'm sure you're aware of that. There are different ways in which you can display topics. So this is my sandbox course for CLB 5-6. And I have here a few topics, a few units around workplace culture, because this was the theme that I was interested in, and I wanted to consolidate that theme into several activities, but not as many as all these units would offer. So I ordered these workplace related units in here, and I have workplace culture, making requests at work, and the other two that are related, which is writing workplace emails 1 and writing workplace emails 2. Now, what I did in here, I looked at it and I said, "Ooh, that is really long." So I changed the view to see if that improves it to the collapsible topics, and that's what I did. And I liked that, and I thought, okay, if this works here in the sandbox, I'm going to use the same view in my regular course. However, you can change that view. You can try displaying these topics in a different way. You can have only one topic per week, for example, and not have all the topics collapsible here. So it is for you the space to try those different ways and to see how those topics are displayed and what works best for your learners and for you, and what gives them the best experience. And what I need to do is try the open navigation drawer, so I see how much is again available, how much space I have available here, how much my learners are going to see, and if this is what I want or not in my live course. Okay, let me just go back here. So what you can also do is, so that was the first point, just optimizing your course page organization, just seeing what you want, what kind of layout you prefer, and how you want to set it up. Another point that you can work on in your sandbox is customizing the content of units. So again, I'm going to go here just to show you that. when I look at the first unit, workplace culture, it's quite long. So I look at it and I say, oh, that's altogether 14 activities with some of the ePortfolio artifacts for needs assessment, for learner reflection. There are 2 assessment tasks, but there are 3 videos that prepare learners for their assessment tasks, and there's some 3 vocabulary activities. So I just look at these in detail and I just see what I can do, and I decide on what I want to use. And I decide not to use the whole unit, but I decide to use only 3 or 4 activities from it. But I still want to keep the whole unit in my sandbox just in case. The only thing that I will do is I'll just pick the 3 activities that I want and I'll copy those into my live course. Okay, so that's how I do it. Then the next thing that I will do, I'll test e-activities for timing, for navigation, for possible challenges that learners can experience, and just see if there's any way I can adjust my teaching to accommodate all these things. And I also go through the e-activities just to see how much time I need to spend in the in-class session and how much time the learners need to complete these activities if I assign them for their self-directed learning. And finally, the last thing that I may choose to do is look at the content and then say, okay, there's good content, but I think some activities are too long, or some H5Ps have only 10 words and I would like to have more vocabulary in them. And I decide that I will use that content as the basis for my own activities that will be developed just by making slight modification to what is already in that page, on that page. Now, another point in here, how to use your sandbox course is you can use it for in-person teaching. I know that many classes right now, many courses are hybrid courses, which means that part of the time instructor spends teaching in a person session, face-to-face, and the other part of the class is completed by the learner independently in their own time. So you can use the sandbox course to house resources for use in in-person classes. You may be teaching only the class that happens only in person and you don't have the online course. However, you can still use your sandbox and have that sandbox to house all the materials that you want to use. So you can use resources such as audios, videos, or images and share them using the screen. And based on those resources, you can develop your own activities that would be used in the face-to-face session. So they can be, for example, you can have the listening that you use, and then you can develop your own set of comprehension questions or teach specific listening strategies. You can use images as prompts for discussions or prompts for writing activities. So you can display the image and have some kind of guiding questions for writing activities or for discussions. You can display a short conversation that appears in one of the activities and then use that as a springboard for grammar explanations or for pronunciation practice. So really you would use it as any other resource, but that all of these resources are hosted in one place in your sandbox, which comes really, really handy, and they can be reused again and again in the future. Okay. Now, I have another question for you now because I'm going to move on to the next part of my presentation where I'm going to talk about customizing the existing content. So the question for you is, do you customize the existing content on Avenue?
That's very 50-50 so far.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that's good because even if you do not customize your content right now, maybe this presentation will just inspire you and you will see what you can actually do with some of the activities in there. So I'll just list a few, I have listed a few ideas and I'll just go over them and give you some practical examples of those. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think I can close the poll. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So this is a note that I put in here just for your information. So different ways of editing and modifying and customizing activities that I'm going to talk about are part of editing, editing either a course page or editing the activities themselves. So they will be available only to instructors who have completed stage 2 Avenue training. If you are an Onyx instructor with only stage 1 training, it is a good idea for you, and I strongly recommend it that you complete the transition to stage 2 training. It's a 1 hour training. It's very brief. It's self-directed, and it goes very, very fast, but it's very informative. If you complete that, you can move on to stage 2, and at that point, you can learn about different ways in which you can edit your course page and the elements of your course page and activities. So it will be very, very helpful. But in this presentation, I just provide a few examples of what you can do with your course content. And the major feature that you would probably use when sharing your activity, moving your activities or copying your activities from one course to another would be a sharing card. And that sharing card is also available once you have the stage 2 training. Okay. So I just put a few basic steps for you here when you want to modify or create new content. I think it is really important to work with the stuff that you already have in your sandbox. So I think the most important thing is to have the learning object, and that is an e-activity or the document or the file that you work with, that you work on. And if it is a single activity, you can copy it using a sharing card or downloading it and uploading it. I'm going to show it in a moment how you can possibly do that to your sandbox course. Or if you're going to work on more than one activity, one learning object, and you want to see the whole unit, you can request the whole unit from the course builder. But to show you how you can download an activity, because you cannot download every activity that is in the course. You can do that with H5P activities, for example. It's quite simple. Let me just demonstrate how you can do that. I can go to any of these. I can even do it in the preview mode. So this is let's say I'm teaching a CLB1 class, and I look at this unit on calendar, and I'm using a calendar, and I can see 6 activities, 6 H5Ps. I don't need all of them. I really want to teach days of the week and then months of the year, so I really need 2 of them. So instead of ordering the whole unit and then deleting the activities that I don't need, I can go into the first activity and I can copy that one onto my computer. I'll just say reuse and download this H5P file. I download it to my computer, and then once it's downloaded, I can upload it to my course, to my sandbox course, and then I have that file only. And then I can work on it easily and do whatever I want to do with it. I wanted to say that you can even do it here in the preview mode, but not every H5P file will have this option. It really depended on the developer of the materials. Some of them actually activated this option in these in this series of H5Ps. All of them have that, but some of them will not have that, and this way you will have to order the whole e-unit to get access to these H5Ps. Just wanted to show that. Okay. Now what you would, so let's imagine we have a learning object, we have this activity in our sandbox and we're going to work on it. So what I would do now, I would probably duplicate that activity to make sure that I have the original, and then the other version I'm going to work on. I'm always overly cautious when it comes to things like that. You don't need to do that. It's something that I like to do, so I know I can compare things, or I can just see if I delete something by mistake, I can still go back to the original and work on it again, because in H5P you cannot, there's really no undo function, so it's really it can be sometimes frustrating. Then I would work on this activity, and then once I'm made all the changes that I wanted to, I would save it under new and unique name, not to confuse it with the original activity again. And once this is ready and I'm ready to copy that activity into my course, I would use the sharing cart feature to copy that new activity to your live course. And I'm just going to demonstrate how you can do that. So this is my course page in my sandbox. And you see I don't have the sharing card here. In order to use the sharing card, I need to insert the block, the sharing card block. First, to do that, I need to turn editing on, and you can do it again, as I said before, only if you have completed stage 2 training. I'll go to my navigation drawer and see the option of adding a block. I look at the list of blocks possible, and I see sharing card. I do this, click here, and my sharing card block is here, and it allows me to do different things. So if I want to work with the whole unit, I use this option here, and I can copy the whole section. If I want to work only with one activity, I'm just going to use this little cart symbol here, and then it's going to copy just that one particular activity. So the way I would do it, I would duplicate this file. I would simply say duplicate here. Of course, it's working. So I now know it's a copy, but I would, if I want to change the title of it and rename it, I would do it here. And then I would go into this activity, make my changes, save it, and then copy it into my regular course. I'm just going to delete it for now because I don't need it. Okay, let's move on to the next point. So this is the, these are basically the steps. So you copy the learning object into your sandbox, or the whole unit, you duplicate the activity, work on the copy, change the copy, modify it, save it, and use the sharing card feature to copy it into your regular course. Okay. Now, how can you modify the existing content? One of the simplest things that you can change in your in the activities that you have in courses is you can modify existing discussion activities, forum activities, and in there you can change. Yes?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just noticed that Shabana has her hand up. I think maybe she has a question.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Please go ahead.
Yes, hi. I was
Hi.
asking, when you are planning to modify and you're copying it in the sandbox, is it possible, can I take it to my other course and then make changes over there, or should I make changes over here and then copy it, put it into sharing cart?
No, you can make the changes in your live course, but
Okay.
sometimes when you copy it in your live course, your students can be working in your live course and they'll see the activity. If it happens to be unhidden, they might
Okay.
actually be able to access it, right? So I
Okay.
think it's always safer to
Mhm.
work with your sandbox, but definitely you can skip the sandbox and do that into in your regular live course for
Yeah,
sure.
what I'm using my sandbox to share my materials and quizzes with my colleagues. So they come into my sandbox and they can take anything they want to. So what should I recommend to them? Put it into make changes over there and then move it to their course?
If they make the changes, then you don't have the original, right?
No, they will make a copy and then change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's fine. If that works
Okay.
for you, yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes, yes,
Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, that's a great use actually for the sandbox. I think it's very practical. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
So, yeah, another way, so modifying the existing content of the discussion activities, questionnaires, and surveys, all kinds of modal built-in tools is relatively easy. So let me just show you what you can do basically is, because we have a quick survey, for example, here. So all you need to do is just edit, again, duplicate this and use the edit questions. You can change the questions that are already in here and then create a new survey. That's one of the things. Let me just do here. Oh, what is it? Just went. Okay. You can also go into any of the discussions that are here and you can change, you can modify this discussion forum. So again, what you would do, you would just go into edit settings and just change the text of the instructions. If you want to change things like the length of the response or the question, or you want to adjust it, it's a good idea to do it here. What you can also do is insert the pictures, insert audio files, and so on. You can use any of these functions here that allow you to do that, right? So this is relatively easy. And again, it just requires you to have the editing capabilities that you can get only after completing the stage 2. Let's go here. So the same as with questionnaires and surveys that you can use for you can use as assessment artifacts. So you can use these for needs assessment, questionnaires and surveys, or for learner reflections, and you can reuse them over and over just by tweaking types of questions or by tweaking the wording of the questions. For example, if you have multi-level classes, you can have different types of questions for different CLB levels. So you can adjust that to the learner proficiency level. Okay. And one more thing that is, sorry, I just needed to go back. That is really important is when you modify, anytime you modify anything in your existing content, test how it works, how the new content works. First of all, go through it, looking for any typos or word omissions or spelling errors and so on, because things happen. And try different options. Maybe you want to ask a yes/no question, but then when you look at it, it doesn't look too good, and maybe there's a way to improve it. Maybe you want to have a question that will be an open-ended question. So Sandbox allow you to try these things and just see whatever works best and whatever is more appropriate for your course. Now, another way that you can work with the existing content is work with the H5P activities. And as you've noticed, there are lots and lots of H5P activities in our modules and units. And H5P activities are great. They're interactive. They can be completed by learners in a self-directed way. But they're really rich in content. And sometimes you may feel that the learner is not getting all the content from the H5Ps that is really there, and they're not digging deep enough to get all the language elements that are in there. So what you can do, you can still download audio or images or video files from the H5P activities and use them outside of the H5P environment. You can actually upload them to your course page as a separate resource. And then you can develop additional activities that go with that. Also with H5P activities, you can split longer activities into shorter ones simply by deleting the slides. And I'm going to demonstrate these things in a moment. You can add slides with your own ideas and with your own questions or vocabulary practice. And you can modify text if you see the instructions that are maybe too complex, or maybe there are too many vocabulary items on a slide and your level, the level of your learners in your class is lower and you see it's too challenging for them. You can adjust these H5Ps. And again, always before making any changes, I would just duplicate that file, that H5P activity, and then make the changes in the duplicate, in a copy, save it under a new name. The name needs to be unique, and then share it with other courses. So let me just show you what you can do in here with the H5P activities, just a few ideas. So this is my Introduction to Workplace H5P. And it's a great H5P. It has 8 slides. Really, there are just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slides with the activities. But the slide number 3 has this long audio that is accompanied by comprehension questions. And I'm looking at that slide and I say, I would like to use that audio again, and maybe I would like to refer to it again when I have an in-person session, or maybe when I'm in the online session. So what you can do with any audio in H5P that has this format, this long bar here, what you can do is double click on it and save this audio, download this audio to your file, to your computer. So you basically, what you do, you're saving this audio to, I'm just going to save it here to my downloads as an audio file. And as you can see here, it has downloaded it. So it's already there on my computer. And then what you can do, you can upload this audio to your course page in a different environment, and I'll explain why. And then use it just as audio so the learners can listen to it over and over and over again. You don't have to go into the H5P activity to do that. You can do the same thing with the with images. I would like to be able to have an in-class discussion based on these 2 images instead of, or maybe I want to divide my class into 2 groups and have and assign each of the images to a different group. So what I can do, I can just, again, by right-clicking on an image, I can download that image to my computer, and I'm going to say image 1, and then have it on my computer. You see, it's been downloaded here. And then use it in the class, and I'm going to show you how I am going to use it. You cannot download the audio that has this format. That's a button. It just doesn't have this ability to do that. What you would need to do, what you can do, is actually convert that button into the long, full audio tool, and then download it from there. But this is something that you can do with longer audios that appear in your H5Ps, and there are quite a few of them. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, so that's what I was going to demonstrate. Oh, I was going to show also how I'm going to include that audio in my course page. So I've decided to download that audio, and I would like to have that audio in my topic here, workplace culture, but just separate from the H5P. Maybe I just want to refer to it in a different way. All I can do is, what I can do in here is I can add it to my course page by using add an activity or resource. Now, these files, images, audios, videos cannot be used by learners directly from the course page, but Moodle has the built-in MP3 player. So you can use these files by inserting them into the tools that can be used on the course page, such as label or page. So here, I think label is one of the easiest ones to use. It's very simple, very easy to use. And what you can do is just insert the, where is this is where this is the symbol for inserting an audio or video file. This is what you would do. And I'll just do it here. I'll just go to my computer, choose the file that I want to upload, and just, hello. And I'm going to upload it. And insert it and save it and return to course. And it's going to be displayed in here. So this way, you can use it even from your sandbox course, or you can put that in your regular course if this is all you want to use from that H5P. So what I'm trying to say is you don't have to use the whole H5P, you don't have to move the whole H5P and share it with another course, but you can just take one audio file that you're interested in and just copy that into your course. Okay. Great. Let's go back here. Split longer activities into shorter ones. That's one pretty common way of modifying your H5P activities. I'm just going to show that. Pretty simple. This is the H5P that has a lot of vocabulary practice. It has 10 slides, and they're pretty packed with information and with words. And you say, okay, I want to separate these into the slides that deal only with spelling and the other slides that deal with pronunciation. So what you would do, you would need to make all the changes to your H5P activity in the content bank. You would need to duplicate it in the content bank. You would have to delete the slides, save it under a new name, and then upload it here, and then share it with your live course. So this is quite complex when it comes to the number of steps to do involved in making this modification. And the same is with adding slides and modifying the text. Everything requires you going into the content bank and working from the content bank. So any changes that are made in other tools that are parts of that are part of Moodle, they're less complex, and the ones that are made in H5P activities are a little bit more complex in terms of steps involved. Okay, let's go to this one. What you can also do is create new content in your sandbox. So I think that one of the best ideas would be to look at the existing content and existing types of activities and kind of emulate what is done in there, because a lot of thought and practice went into developing those activities, especially the assessment ones, or especially the ones that involve audio and video. And you can learn a lot from different ways in which different types of activities are used just by looking at them. You can create new pages, new discussions, new questionnaires, and so on. So you can see how things can be done in different ways and how these different types of activities can be used. You can also create new assessments, and I put a big question mark in there just to alert me to that, because new assessments will be compatible, will be connected to ePortfolio the moment they are shared with your course. Especially Moodle quizzes are a little bit complicated when it comes to creating it and adding or modifying it. Moodle quizzes are very peculiar because they come with the question bank. So every time you add a question bank, you add a question to your quiz, it kind of builds the question bank, and the question bank becomes bigger and bigger. Question bank is attached to the course, to the live course. So if your live course has many quizzes, many Moodle quizzes, and you move one of those quizzes, it may actually move the whole question bank. This is kind of risky. So I suggest always creating new assessment from scratch, even by having the original assessment open under a separate tab, and just retyping the questions and just changing and modifying the questions as you need to, because Moodle quizzes can be tricky. That's what I'm trying to say, copying and moving them around. And the final point here, again, when you develop new content, is test how your new content feels, whether it works correctly or not. Try out different options, especially with quizzes. There are different ways of setting up your quizzes. You may want to set all questions on one page, or you may have each question on a separate page. There are benefits of both, advantages and disadvantages of both setups. It depends also on the CLB level of your learners. So you really want to try it out and see what their learning experience is going to be. Okay. And experiment with the new content. So when you develop new interactive activities, see if you can get the same result using different tools. For example, if you want to have the questionnaire, do you want to use the questions with multiple choice? Do you want to use yes, no questions? Do you want to do the survey instead? Because each type of the activity, each tool will give you a slightly different version of that and slightly different option, and you may like only one of them and not like the other ones. So it's up to you. And then test your new content, how it feels, how it works. Is it appropriate for the learners in your class, for their CLB level? Is it user-friendly? Is it very complex? Does it involve many steps? Just so you can see what their learning experience is going to be. Now, the last point that is in here, but it's not really, last but not least, and I think it's really one of the biggest advantages of having a sandbox course, is the ability to collaborate with others. So you can enroll one co-instructor or many co-instructors teaching the same level. You can, if you have a volunteer in your class or a TESOL student in your class, you can enroll them in your sandbox course, and they can try things out there as well. They can learn and they can see how to navigate a course page, how to navigate an activity. It might be a learning curve for them as well. You can create a shared sandbox for instructor teaching the same CLB levels and create assessments specifically. I think it's useful for assessments because once somebody has developed something, why not share it with everybody else who teaches the similar level? Or if somebody has a good idea for a reflection activity or for a needs assessment tool, it's again a good way to share it. And share modified or newly created content if you think somebody else might make a good use of it, because it's just a good practice to share things that you have developed with your coworkers. Now
Thank you,
on this
Margaret.
page,
I'm just going to,
Mhm.
sorry, just going to
Sure,
interrupt.
yeah, go
Shabana
ahead.
has her hand up.
Yeah.
Did you have a
Yeah,
question?
just wanted to add, if you want to share your quizzes or assignments with the instructors, you have to request them to be added in your sandbox as teachers. If they are added as a
Yes.
participant, then they cannot take the materials from there.
That's a very good point. Thank you. Yes, thank you. And the same as with volunteers and TESOL students. If you want them to contribute to your sandbox, it's the same thing. You would have them enrolled as a teacher. But they have to go through the training. There's a training module that they would need to complete so they can actually benefit from having access to your sandbox. Absolutely. Yeah. So on this slide in here, I just put all the links that may be relevant to using the sandbox here. So, and they're all on this web page. It's a Learn to Teach the Avenue support, and most of it is under stage 2 support. I think all of it actually is in here. So you can see, you can browse the e-unit catalog, request the course, add e-units to the course. So if you already have set up your sandbox, you can add units to it as you go. And then things in here like what was it? Managing learning activities. So in here, forum activities and choice and questionnaires, H5P, and quizzes, right? And customizing and creating content is all in here. So you can have a better sense of what you may actually need to use in your sandbox and what you want to do with it if you're interested really in modifying the content. But I just put them in here just in case. So it's requesting a course, requesting units, both involve using Course Builder, using sharing cart, which I demonstrated before how to get a sharing cart block and then share one activity or a whole unit, and then managing activities, discussions, HFBs, assignments, quizzes, and so on. So just to recap everything, if you want to have a sandbox, request a sandbox using the Avenue course builder, request at least 2 units just to get a sense of what it's going to look like. Use the sandbox course to learn how to work in the Avenue environment, modify existing resources, create new activities. You can use your sandbox as a collection of activities for in-person instruction where you share them via screen sharing, and collaborate with co-instructors, with volunteers and CECL students if needed, using your sandbox course. And this is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, specific questions, I can answer them now really quickly. Yep. And thank you very much for your attention.
There was a lot of positive feedback throughout the session in the chat. There were a few
Thank you.
questions, but I was able to answer those. So if anyone has a
Okay.
question they'd like to unmute and ask your question, this is a good time for that. Seeing more thank yous. That's great. These were really helpful ideas. Thank you so much, Margaret. What an excellent
Okay,
session.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Really good. So this has been recorded, everyone, and we'll post it on YouTube. There'll be a posting in the Teachers Only forum when that's available, and you can view the recording if you'd like to go back and watch the steps. There was some excellent demonstrations today, so thank you again.